Good morning. Thanks very much for that introduction, Rick. I'm really pleased to be with you this morning, and as Tina outlined, some of the obstacles and barriers to participation by VCSEs in procurement. And it's my role as Crown Rep is to open contract opportunities to the sector and to work on removing the barriers that prevent the sector bidding for contracts. So much has happened, especially over the last 2 years in government. And I want to sort of unpack that a bit for you so you can understand exactly what we're trying to do. So last year, many of you may be aware of the National Procurement Statement, which was issued in February. It was a defining moment for the sector. A great deal of work had happened prior to the statement launch. And my advisory panel, which I have a VCSE advisory panel that is made up of all the key infrastructure organisations in the country, so NCVO, SE UK, Voice for Change, etc. We worked with Minister Gould, who was at that time in Cabinet Office, to make sure that this statement that was being launched reflected what government should be doing to work and to really listen to sector representatives about the barriers and the inclusion of VCSEs in that supply chain. So the announcement came and it stated that it's important that every government department would need to set targets for commissioning with the sector. And I'll come on to that just a bit later and where we're up to on that journey. Targets had been set already for SMEs, as we know. But the way I've worked with government departments is to more or less hold their hands because, first of all, many didn't truly understand the VCSE sector, many theories out there. And what I was trying to demonstrate to them, we're much more than a Scouse hut. We are delivering some of the most important, we're supporting in many of the most challenging communities in the country. And if we are not there, then who is going to lift that mantle to support organisations? So PPN 1, if you want to go on the government website and read it, came out last year. And it was not only about central government, because I know a lot of you are looking to contract with local and regional government. So this statement encompasses a central, local and regional government. But for me, I'd started work before this and set up a government task force. And it was made up of working with 6 departments at a time. And the first thing was about demystifying the sector, them having an understanding. Because at the moment, a third of all in our Department of Health and Social Care, a third of those contracts are run by VCSEs. When some of the most challenging things, especially with the NHS, care homes, etc., they are delivering there. So working with the department to demystify the sector, and then giving them the mandating from them an action plan, a VCSE action plan that was signed off by their minister, and in there they had to make pledges. So it was signed off by their minister and myself. We supported them because a lot of them didn't have the data, the baseline data, to understand what they were doing with VCSEs. And it's essential, you have to know your base in order to be able to set your target. And then market engagement plan. How do you engage with the sector? And most important, before you put that procurement together, pre-engagement is imperative in order to make sure that what you're going out to do or to buy or to procure is the correct service. But also that the sector had to have visibilities to pipelines coming out. And again, I'll come back to that later. So our first cohort included MOJ, DCMS, CCS. Second cohort, Department of Education, Department of Transport, Home Office. And we're now with our third cohort, which includes MOD, MLC, GH, FCDO. So every department now has gone through, or the last ones are just finishing going through this work with me. So every department who put together their VCSE action plan had to go go before my VCSE panel and present it. So they were the people that could give them the support, information, or maybe, you know, adding value to that document. And we had a new chief commercial officer, Andrew Fasani, came in over a year ago now, and he has been absolutely excellent in championing our works. And we know now with the new announcement on the procurement statement that we are at the moment and working with government departments, setting the targets that they will have to adhere to. And what that statement, just to go back to what that statement said, it said VCSEs and SMEs have to be engaged in contracts that appropriately to what they can deliver. So you've got to look at VCSEs and ensure that they are recognised. And if those contracts that we know that they are able to deliver, they get the opportunity to do so. And we recognise that the sector goes from the very big VCSEs to micro VCSEs, so encompassing all of those. Strategic suppliers are key in government. They are the suppliers that hold the most significant contracts. Many of you will know them, from PwC to a range of organisations that we work with and call strategic suppliers. But they also are required to subcontract to VCSEs and SMEs. And I set targets for them each year for engaging with the sector. We also, in my time, developed a business hub, and hopefully some of you have all been to the hub, because on there will be uploaded all the VCSE action plans for each department, all the information such as market opportunities. And one of the other important things we recognise, we just looked before at the pressures on the VCSE sector. We don't have writing armies in the back room, and I come from the sector, so I understand this. We don't have people in the back room writing our bids. We're usually doing that while running the organisation. But sometimes consortia is the way forward for us, joining with other VCSEs. And if you go on our new platform, our digital platform, you will be able to look at how you can set a consortia and bid for contracts. And that leads me nicely onto the new digital platform. So the launch of the platform is going to be easier to navigate because, again, these are issues that we've listened and heard and will give us valuable data in government. I also have a diversity commission and task force, which is made up of disability women and BME groups. And geographically, they are spread, these organisations that sit on this across the country. And so also that is really, really important. One thing I say to you, please sign up to the platform now. Put that so you get that, you're getting those alerts and you're on that platform navigating it, and you will see contracts that are suitable for VCSEs. So the other thing that we have put in this is about the 18 months in advance pipeline, advertising in advance. I can't tell you, and I know you will know this also, the times that I saw a bid that I thought was right for the organisation that I led, and there was like 2 weeks left to do it. That is not appropriate. You need advance notice. Strengthening prompt payment. This is the Achilles heel of the sector. We cannot bankroll government or any other public organisation, and so prompt payment has been strengthened. And if there is an issue where you need to make a complaint, we have strengthened the powers of our procurement review service, and they are there to support you on prompt payment or anything else. Social value has come up this morning, and again, that is very important. And there has been no announcements on that. So PPN 2 is the new document. So the social value has been aligned to the government missions. The framework has been changed slightly. Consultation took place, and I hope many of you took part in that. And there will be a statement shortly on that. But the present government wants social value to support their ambitions around growing the economy, and social value to support fair work, skills for growth. Getting people into work is essential if they want economic growth. And talking about economic growth, this is not the preserve of one sector. It takes the private, public, and VCSE sector if we're looking for that change. And then we talk, I just want to talk about the contract readiness program that we did. It was a highly successful piece of work, and we worked with VCSEs across the country because you need to understand how is it, how do you get contract ready? And if you'll watch out, there's another, those programs are finished, but we've got a new one coming shortly. The Civil Society Covenant is another that was launched at the summit last July, and hopefully a lot of you went along. And the PM at that and government ministers launched this to the sector and said that the sector is a valued partner, and they are adamant that we will be involved, VCSEs, in what they do. So again, the Covenant team is working on this. They have set up, they will have a Covenant Council. Maybe some of you have applied to go on the council. The names of the people that are on that will be announced shortly. Grants are also a very important part of what we for the sector. And we still in government give out major grants. And at one point, they were all along, every department had their own grants. We've pulled them under one site, and you will find a grant on government website. Sign up to that. Again, you will get alerts when grants are available, etc. And just quickly, because I haven't got much time left, is we are setting up a new government agency from the 1st of April. Our market and suppliers, who I work with, and our Crown Commercial Department are coming together to set up the Government Commercial Agency, GCA. And they will take up the mantle, and I'm in talks with their new chief exec of the agency to ensure that VCSEs are integral to what they do at the new agency. So it's been that's been a sort of romp through what has happened. But we recognise in government that we need a strong, resilient, sustainable VCSE sector, especially as we face the many challenges. We know that VCSEs and government knows that the sector works in the most deprived communities in the UK. And if we want to make change, if government wants to make change, then it's got to be with the sector where you are to absolutely make that happen. So I'm just going to give a quick couple of giveaways. Sign up to the digital platform. Look on the hub for market engagement. Also looking at strategic suppliers, and SE UK also work on their corporate challenge. Sign up to find a grant. Look at the pledges on Civil Society Covenant. Also, we ring-fence contracts up to 120,000 and 3 million for construction. They're ring-fenced for VCSEs, for when you just want to cut your teeth on a government contract. PPRS, use them if you need to. And that is really it from me. Also is that we have dynamic purchasing frameworks, and look at the Department of Highways, sign up to them. Excellent contracts, and they have done so much work with the VCSE sector. So hope I've sold that to you all. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Claire. Just to note, Mark is having some technical issues. So as luck would have it, there are some questions. I think that there's a few people that have some questions. So if you don't mind, we'll take 5 minutes just to fire some questions your way. So we have some time, so don't worry about time.
Oh, okay.
So I have a question from Kate. Kate says, question for Claire, referencing the VCSE Advisory Council. NCVO has recently, as I understand it, made its small charities team redundant. How is the voice of smaller organizations included in the advisory council?
I can't speak for NCVO itself and what it does, and I haven't heard that. NCVO does sit on I have my own VCSE advisory panel in government, which, as I said, is made up of all the key infrastructure groups and experts in the fields. And they have been a powerful agency, especially on policy change in government. I don't know how that's working. The council I was talking about is the new Covenant Council that is being launched. I know that NCVO, their new chief exec, is chairing that, and I don't know if the announcement has happened on who's going to be on that. You're right. I mean, I don't know, and I think it's for you as agencies to find out from NCVO what has happened. I certainly will take that back myself and find out what is happening, because those small organizations are the lifeblood of VCSEs. They're the ones that people come to their front doors in that first instance. You know, just talking about women and violence, you know, I know that women's organizations that I have on my panel, some of them are very micro organizations, but they're the ones that are at the coalface. They're the ones that see that person and are helping them on money advice, on advice if they're in a violent relationship, or whatever it is, their children. So they are just as important. And that's why those ring fence contracts are important also, and find a grant.
Another question for Claire. How can government ensure that community voices and lived experiences are genuinely represented in decision making?
Well, what I've done since I came into government is bring the voice of the sector into government. When I first came in 5 years ago, we really didn't have a voice in there. We really weren't accountable. And so the first thing, I set up the advisory panel. I brought people's voices in and the voice of their members. So Voice for Change, who you know, are there to support BME organizations across the country, bringing them in to get that voice into government. And then I felt I needed to do a bit more. And that's why I set up the Diversity Commission and Task Force. And these are individuals and organizations from the Northeast, Northwest, Midlands, right down, because I acknowledge that the advisory panel are those organizations, the majority of them are in London. And that was the other thing. I'm based in Liverpool, so I've got a real I talk about this a lot about us out in the out in the counties and shires, not having that voice. So bringing those people down the table, and they have as much influence because I bring government departments and officials to them, and I ensure that when policies are being talked about, the advisory panel, both of them have their voices around that table. And I talk about around the table, not just, you know, we'll send you a questionnaire out, eyeballing people, bringing ministers to talk to our panels also. And I do my very best to be out where I can, listening and bringing things back into government. So hopefully that answers your question a bit. You know, we need to do much more. We always will need to do much more. But I think from where we were 5 years ago, It's demonstrably changed.
Amazing. I've got one more question, but there's been a few questions in terms of links that you've referenced, websites that you referenced. I just want to let the audience know that all of those will be sent out If not answered in the Q&A today, it will be sent out in comms after the event. So you'll definitely get that, both from Claire herself and also from What Impact as an organization. I've got a question here, Claire, that says, what do you see as the biggest barrier VCSE organizations currently face when trying to work with government?
I think the barrier in the past has been the tones of trying to get through the procurement, which, you know, I mean, some of the stuff you just didn't need it. And as it was bureaucracy for bureaucracy's sake. And so what I've tried to do is to get departments to strip out all of that. You don't need it, you know. And also, one of the other things that we're looking at seriously is how do we contracts for delivery to people are important. And we know behind that sometimes these contracts have not been well run. And we want to engage with those organizations that, you know, those small organizations that I was talking about, having them in the room, having them in an orbit where they will be able to see those contracts, and others who do not have the expertise cannot just, you know, I'll take that one and take that one and take that one because they're, you know, they've got the infrastructure, they can do that. We want people that really have those experiences. But the dynamic purchasing frameworks are also great. I just spoke very quickly about highways. And what I said in government, if highways can do this, and they first came to me and said, Claire, can we talk to you about putting this dynamic purchasing framework together for VCSEs? And I thought, yeah. And so then I thought, what do they sell? Well, a lot, to be quite honest. Signage. All the signage you see on motorways, that is now produced by a social enterprise down south. Nuneaton Signs do that. Hey Girls, period poverty, on all the motorways, in all the machines, they're there. Photography, refreshments, sorry, having a senior moment here, but all the services, you know, all the things that they have. So you sign up there. It's very easy to sign up to that dynamic purchasing framework. You get in there. CCS, been working with them. They've also got theirs, and they've got one in place now. Again, go on their site and look at their strategy for VCSEs and what they're going to do, because they've got a similar dynamic purchasing framework. So what I'm trying to do in government is to try and get them a bit more innovative. We know in the sector, you have to be innovative. You have to be able to turn on a sixpence because you don't know what's coming in the door. And so I want government to not just sit there and plod, but to look at innovation, work with others and listen to what they've got to say. And then the money that we spend will be money well spent, because it's not our money, it's your money, it's the taxpayers' money. And we have the responsibility of making good decisions, good decision making, making sure that that money goes as far as it possibly can, that it hits those communities that it's there to serve. Sorry, Rick, I'm on my soapbox now.
Oh no, Claire, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.